Welcome back to the Boys in the Booth podcast, episode 218. Cody, Abrams, and Melbourne, all three of us with you for this episode. And of course, it's, the weekend coming off of it here with Halloween celebrations. Next weekend will be the same. So happy Halloween to all our great listeners out there. And let's get right into it, fellas, with Core 4 Stories, our new segment to kick it off. And this one is a special one. This comes in from a listener, Tyrone in California. So to get one from California and from Tyrone, we certainly thank him. And to get one from another country and another state, that's pretty cool. So this one comes from him, and it's about the Minnesota Wild and their hot start to the season. Best start in franchise history. So this is from Tyrone. Better hear about the Wild next pod, fellas. Looking like a good top six, a gritty defensive third, and a young but talented fourth line. Aside from John Merrill, back end looks great, and Philip Gustafson, that is a brick wall back there. Can't really disagree with any of that, fellas. Let's start with the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, they've been really good to start this season, and I'm going to go into great depths about them a little bit later on part of my scary start. But they have surprised all of us. In our preseason rankings, we put them at 6 in this division. We, dunked on their cap situation like we always do. And we said that they're going to have to get a lot out of their top guys. Well, Kirill Kaprizov has been phenomenal to start this season, as always. Matthew Boldy, Matt Zuccarello, all great. They're getting scoring up and down the lineup so far. And the most important thing here is the team defense that's coming out of Minnesota right now. With brief injuries to guys like Ryan Hartman and Joel Eriksson and Spurgeon, these guys are third in the league with the third least amount of expected goals against per 60. They are not allowing many great scoring chances. They're keeping the puck out of their end. The puck that is getting to Gustafson, it's easily savable, and that's why his numbers are looking so good. And all in all, they're still scoring a ton too. So this team looks good in all aspects of the game.
Yeah, I wanted to say, Case, as well, that the pucks that are getting to Gus are being stopped, as well, as he's currently sitting in 14th right now on Money Puck in terms of goals saved above expected, with 3 goals saved above expected in 6 games, so 0.5 a game, which is pretty damn good. However, I do have to say that they got pumped by the Philadelphia Flyers, and Gus did not look good in that one. He had a 7.27, 6 goals against on 22 shots. Didn't look very good the other night, but that all being said, you're right, Case. We all predicted them to finish lower in the standings, and they've been off to quite the scary good start, I must say, to rope in the main topic to the Core 4 Story segment here. They're 5-1-2, so that's exciting for Minnesota Wild fans. And Tyrone, we appreciate the question. And I should say as well, every week for these Core 4 Stories, you should just drop us a comment on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok now that we're there, because I read them all. So if there's a good one and we want to share it on the podcast, we will. And we'll bring it up in this segment, Core 4 Stories.
Yeah, and you can also send us a DM on Instagram as well. Feel free to direct message us if you have a storyline that you want us to bring up, next week on Core 4 Stories and moving forward. So that's great. And thank you again to Tyrone for that.
Feel free to send me carrier pigeon, because I don't currently have Instagram or TikTok or...
Case, you gotta get... Case, you have about 285 reels sitting in your inbox right now from me. So when you do get it, you have to watch them all in a row, in one sitting. Treat it like a movie.
I'll have to take the week off,
because they're all great.
All right, moving on, fellas, to story number 2, and we have to talk about the Washington Capitals, a team that I was pretty high on before the start of the season. And right now, that looks pretty good. 5-2 start. They just got off of a 5-game win streak, of course, being shut out by the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-0 over the weekend. But man, oh man, the Capitals look good out of the gate. 5-2 start. What do we have to say about the boys in DC.
Well, I mentioned expected goals against per 60. They were number 2 in the league as the second best defensive team in the league. They've started out real hot. I noticed in fantasy the other day that someone picked up Connor McMichael. And when I saw that notification, I thought he was already taken. Like, how is he not taken? Because he's been electric to start the season. That second line's been really great, especially when, a lot of the focus is on the top line with Dylan Strome and Alex Ovechkin. So they've come up in a big way, and yeah, they've looked a lot better than I expected them. They've split games with the Devils. They looked really good in the game that they beat the Devils in, and I am surprised. This has been a bit of a scary start to me as a Metro fan, but I'm waiting for them to come back down to earth eventually. But at this point, it looks like they're going to be, a playoff team.
Yeah, well, they're definitely better built than the team that they're always tied to, which is the Penguins, and that's for the sole reason of getting Ovi his scoring title of the NHL, the leading goals, and he has 2 this year, 5 points in 7 games. He's well on his way. I don't know if it happens this season, but if it did, it would likely be towards the end, and that would be really exciting, especially if they're making a playoff push. But yeah, Washington, a little surprising, I guess, out of the gate, but at the same time, they did make some moves in the offseason and, bringing in Chychrun and Roy, and, they kind of are looking good. So, Hart, maybe pat yourself on the back for now as it's going well. But don't be drinking too much of the Emerson Kool-Aid there.
I knew that line was going to come out in this episode. That's great. All right, next up, guys, just some really tough luck for the Utah Hockey Club on their blue line, losing Sean Durzi for 4 to 6 months and John Marino out 3 to 4 months. So let's just talk about Utah, the injuries on the blue line, and how that's going to affect them moving forward.
Yeah, it's certainly taken the wind out of the sail of the Utah inaugural season here because, they came out flying at first, the young guns scoring a lot of goals, and they were looking really good. It was kind of like they did last year in Arizona to start the season, and we had to, realign our expectations. But this is rough. We started to look at the back end of this team and look at it in a positive way for the first time in a long time, picking up Sergachev and John Marino to kind of fill out a really good top 3 in Utah. But this is big. Like, I don't know how they're going to recover from losing 2 crucial guys on the back end.
Yeah, it's a really big loss for them, and it's a tough division to make up points for. And if Durzi's out, I think he's out for the next 6 months potentially. So, that's just a death sentence for that blue line because he's the heartbeat really back there. He sneakily became a really solid fantasy defenseman last season. And, not that everything is about fantasy, but he climbed up the charts in terms of when defensemen were picked this year. So I feel bad for all of those fantasy owners who picked him high thinking, okay, we need to see a replica season from last year. And now he's out. That's just the way it goes. That's tough. But what I do want to say regarding Utah, they could use a right-handed shot defenseman who moves the puck up the ice pretty well. They have a history of trading for those guys from guys who were drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know. I think 17th overall in 2017, Timothy Liljegren would look great in those black, blue, and white Utah Hockey Club jerseys. What do you guys think?
It really dragged us along there. I didn't know where you're going with that, but it worked. I was sucked in. I was like, what was he going to say? Rasmus Anderson, right hand,
hanging on my every word, Case.
Yeah, you got me. That seems like a perfect fit, and they need to do something. It's an important season for this team. Not only new city and everything that comes with that, but kind of when everyone's starting to expect them to flip the switch on the end of the rebuild. So yeah, I feel like a big overpay for a right-handed defenseman could be coming.
Yeah, the thing is, going back to Liljegren, because everything has to be about the Leafs, for me, he should play for the Leafs. I don't think Connor Timmins or whoever else is going to play on that bottom pair is better overall. I would like to see him play this year under Berube, and Berube has no want for that at all. this year, which kind of baffles me. He's been a pretty serviceable defenseman. He's like a 4 or a 5, I think, and he's now an 8 on this team somehow. And Philip Myers is playing games and Liljegren's not. I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but if he's going to go out of town, I think Utah could be a good fit.
Yeah, shocker that you bring up his name connected to Utah to fill that void. That's for sure. I will say, too, another thing, Michael Kesselring has been a really great story for Utah. Like, that's a guy who was basically seen as a throw-in a couple of years ago at the trade deadline in the Nick Bjugstad deal with Edmonton. And he's a big body who has played really well. And Maverick Lamoureux, of course, made his NHL debut a few nights ago and played right around 20 minutes. And in a 5-1 loss was on the plus side of the ledger. So wanted to mention those things as well.
Do you think his parents smooched in the stands when he got +1?
Oh,
leave him alone.
No doubt about it. Oh, geez. All right, fellas. And to wrap up the core 4 stories, we got to talk about Tage Thompson in Buffalo. 7 goals in 9 games now to start the season. 10 points in his last 6. The whole Mario Lemieux thing, don't want to hear about it, but Tage is off to a great start and looking healthy and looking like himself from 2 seasons ago. And Buffalo's won 3 in a row, but let's focus on TNT for the Sabres.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking scary starts. We're a bit surprised. Buffalo seems to be the only outlier in the Atlantic right now, being in that 3rd spot, and it's probably mostly to do with Tage Thompson in the last few games and how he's been kind of just scoring at will like he was back when we were comparing him to one person on this podcast was comparing him to the second best player to ever live. But yeah, he looks to be that guy again that we expected, to see all of last year, and we didn't really see that, only in spurts. So if they can have a Tage Thompson like this for the rest of the season, then Buffalo is certainly in the playoff mix.
Yeah, last season just 56 points in 71 games, 29 goals, just not good enough for the big man. We know he's better. Year prior, he had 47 and 47. So to see him scoring again, I think he has 7 and 9. Is pretty nice. And Harp, you said the other night, and I thought it was funny how Casey responded. You said, also, boys, Tage with 17 points in his last 10 games, elite. And Case said, true, I'd compare him to the second best player to ever live. The comparisons must stop. I know he's got the big frame, but come on. He's just over a point per game. Yes, he's a really good player. You expect him to be. He needs to be that for Buffalo if they're going to be good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And clearly you guys don't listen. Didn't want to hear about the Lemieux stuff on here. I knew it was going to come up, though. So
you're going to live with that for the rest of your life.
Yes.
You're walking the plank for that one. Like, of course.
Fair enough. All right. That is Core 4 Stories for this week. And again, if you have something you want us to talk about, give us a comment on YouTube or TikTok, whatever. Send us a DM on Instagram. We would love to get your feedback and your suggestions. And thanks again to Tyrone from California for submitting that one on the Wild. I think that's just so cool. So that's great. All right, fellas, let's move on to Scary Starts, of course. Pretty clever name and subject for this episode, of course, with Halloween on the horizon. So let's talk about Scary Starts, and we're going to do one each here. It can be good or bad. Let's get into it. Case?
Okay, yeah, I cheated a little bit. It's going to feel a bit more than one here, so bear with me. It's going to be a bit of a monologue, but a peek behind the curtain. We don't know what the core 4 stories are, Chad and I, heading into this. It's to keep us on the toes and make sure that we're in tune with everything going on in the league. So a bit of my wind has been taken out of my sails here, but I was a bit torn on what I wanted to talk about. Did I want to do a scary good start, a scary bad start, a team, a player? Well, I'm going to do a division. All 4 of the divisions have their outliers, like Edmonton in the Pacific, Pittsburgh, Boston is, not outside of the top 4. So I'd say that's an outlier. But in the grand scheme of things, the Metro, Atlantic, and Pacific are shaping up as expected. The Central, on the other hand, has been chaotic and has many uncertain of what's going to happen for the rest of the season. First, I want to recognize that some things have gone as expected. Dallas is near the top of the division. They're phenomenal. Chicago is at the bottom. Good. That's over with. Let's get away from those teams. We have talked about Nashville, the Predators. They have, everyone expected them to be a strong playoff contender, and now they've looked quite the opposite of that, and everyone's flipping on them to the point where I've called for a miracle worker and Philip Forsberg to save that season.
People did not like that, by the way, on TikTok.
Go ahead and watch the bold predictions episode if you haven't.
Winnipeg, they're bold predictions for a reason.
Yeah, it's bold. Winnipeg has looked like a juggernaut so far. Second highest scoring team, best PP in the league. And incredible goaltending. We pegged them for fourth in the division and potentially missing the playoffs. They're undefeated. The Avalanche cannot keep the puck out of their net. And despite their stars showing up in a big way, scoring at will, they're .500 to start the season. We were calling for a coin flip between them and Dallas at the top of this division. And I know they have the lion's share of expected goals, but this is a bit scary so far. St. Louis, we had in 7th. They've presented as this plucky team that finds a way to win hockey games. They've got decent goaltending from both guys. They've caught the injury bug at the moment, but just above .500, they have to be thrilled with a 5-4 start. And Broberg, what a steal.
Yeah,
Utah, we talked about. They've been middling, so maybe I should have added them to the Chicago Dallas section as expected. But the young guys are showing that this team can score and that they can be a good team. So last but not least, we talked about Minnesota. They've been phenomenal and have absolutely flipped this division upside down. And now we have no clue what's going to happen for the division moving forward. And to me, that's a scary start. If I was a fan of a team in the Central Division, I'd be scared, and I'm a bit spooked for our preseason rankings so far and how they've turned out.
That's a good way to put it. A bit spooked for the preseason rankings. I'm with you, Case, because this division is all over the place. And I actually hung out with a buddy yesterday. Us and the girlfriends went to a pumpkin patch, and he was talking about the Jets. He's a big Jets fan, and he said, "How about them Jets?" And he knew of my take where I said they're going to miss the playoffs or might not have enough to make the playoffs or be a playoff lock, and was just gloating and rubbing it in my face, basically, because they're 8-0 right now. It's insane. And then, the Minnesota Wild, like we talked about in the opening segment, they've been dynamite as well. I don't know, man. This is a scary division no matter where you're at, because I think now, as it's shaken out so far, the top 7 teams of 8 in this division can make the playoffs, and that means that probably 2 or 3 pretty good teams are going to have to miss just because this division is so good right now. So definitely scary. I
mean, I said that I expected both wildcard spots to come out of the Pacific for our preseason rankings. Well, who knows?
Damn.
This division has me scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, and right now, for me, all I'll say about the Central, the scary thing about it, to me, because of how early it is still, and we've seen some good starts, the only sure things to me right now are Winnipeg and their team and the Dallas Stars, I would say. I know the Minnesotas of the world have had a good start, but it's so early, and Colorado's won 4 games in a row. Nashville, it looks like they're starting to get their act together. Jonathan Marchessault with just a beautiful overtime winner the other night. So, it is scary, but it's fun. We're seeing the parity in this division up and down, and it's going to be interesting to watch. But yes, it is scary indeed.
I should add as well, Winnipeg and Minnesota are both in the top 5 right now on Money Puck for goals for above expected, meaning that they're either getting lucky or all of a sudden have really good finishers on both of those teams, or somewhere in between. But that stat usually evens out towards the end of the year. Teams at the very top of it are usually quite lucky. Teams at the very bottom are usually quite unlucky, but expect that to even out a little bit for Winnipeg.
But flip that side over, and it's the exact opposite when it comes to goals against. Like both these teams don't expect to have any goals against. So if you're scoring a little too much and you come back down a little bit, if you can keep the puck out of the net and continue to get good goaltending, which we've seen out of both, Hellebuck's been godly. Then
he's so good.
Not much to be worried about.
He's so good in the regular season. Damn.
Oh, caveat.
Just had to sneak that in there, right?
Well, I mean, last year he just got picked apart by the Stars, Stars of Colorado, is what I was.
Well, and again, like, I mean, Minnesota and Winnipeg, like, they're two teams that just seem to completely collapse in the playoffs. So we'll have to see. It's early yet, but yeah, scary things going on with that Central Division. That was well done, Case. Chad, let's get to you and your scary start pick.
We interrupt this podcast to tell you about one of our favorite partners, Sign Up Expert. If you're a sports bettor, whether brand new, casual, or hardcore, listen very carefully because this ad is for you. Guys, line shopping for the best odds matters, and that's why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books to maximize their profits. Thankfully, there has never been a better time to get signed up, and we are here to connect you with the best promotions industry-wide. When you use our link at signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth, you can get access to all of the top sports books in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique benefits. Most importantly, all of these sports books have valuable sign-up offers for new users. And when you register through our link, you will automatically receive the top offer at each one, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced bankroll. Guys, it's simple. When you use multiple sports books, you ensure that you can always access the best available odds, which is key to successful and profitable sports betting. So, if you want to take advantage of these incredible benefits and support our brand at the same time, please consider signing up for your next sportsbook through our link in the description below, signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. If you're planning on signing up for a new sportsbook anyways, you might as well use our link and support the boys. So, one more time, that's signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. This podcast is sponsored by SeatGeek, the absolute best ticket app out there. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, making it quick and easy to get the best deals to tickets at your favorite sporting event. SeatGeek does this awesome thing where they score each ticket out of 10 based on its value, so you know whether you're getting a good or a bad deal. Last time I got tickets to see the Devils play, I first saw red tickets. I waited it out, monitored the price in-app, and once I saw green, I pulled the trigger. SeatGeek makes it that easy. And here's the best part. SeatGeek has completely hooked us up. Boys in the Booth listeners get $20 off their first purchase on SeatGeek with the promo code BOYSINTHEBOOTH in all caps. Click the link in our description to download the app, and remember to get your discounted tickets using the code BOYSINTHEBOOTH in all caps. Get great seats for a fraction of the cost with SeatGeek.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep it in this division, and I'm going to pick goaltending as one of the scary starts to the season, specifically Alex Georgiev. Guys, he's been rough, really rough, and I've got some stats here and a few honorable mentions in terms of goalies who have gotten off to some pretty scary starts to the season. But for Georgiev, he has a .499 goals against average right now, an .810 save. He has the worst goal saved above expected in the NHL, negative 9.9 in only 5 games played. You can do the math there. That's not very good. He hasn't played a single game where he's posted a save percentage above .861 yet, which is just tough. Colorado started the season not very hot, but quietly. They're 4-4-0 now. They're back to 500. They've kind of battled back here, and the thing is, it's mostly due to Justus Annunen. He's kind of picked up the slack here for Georgiev because Georgiev has not been very good at all. And in Annunen's last 3 games, he has a .962, a .926, and a .962, all Ws. So like I said, they've quietly won those 4 straight games. Most of it has been due to just getting average or slightly above average goaltending from Annunen and not Georgiev. And, something I wanted to bring up as I talk about the Avs and goaltending is the fact that they've kind of never had like really solid goaltending recently. And even when they won the cup, I looked this up earlier because, I wanted to see if my memory was correct, and it was. Darcy Kemper, when they won the cup, he had a 902 in the playoffs, a 902 save percentage. So just not really good. And the thing is, their stars usually just outscore the opposition, and their defense is usually pretty good, so they don't give up a ton. So you can kind of get away with lackluster goaltending so long as it's not this bad. And this year it's been extremely bad, mostly from Georgiev. But also 2 more things about Colorado. They're the 7th best in the NHL in terms of expected goals against. So it's not even like they're getting caved in. Like they're defending well as a team. And in terms of expected goals percentage, they're 3rd as well. So really, like, all it's come down to this slow start. You can talk about the depth on Colorado. Maybe it's not quite there like it used to be, but really when you dig into the numbers, it's basically just goaltending. And even further than that, it's basically just Georgiev, who's had a scary start to the season.
Yeah, I can't. Varlamov is maybe like the last good goalie I can think of in Colorado. I'm sure I'm missing one, and go ahead and point that out in the comments. But that's what I mentioned. I said that they have the lion's share of the expected goals, so things are expected to flip over in Colorado. Mm-hmm. But when we were talking about that coin flip of who's going to be at the top of this division, Dallas or Colorado, the thing we pointed out as maybe this is the question mark for this team is goaltending. And Georgiev, this has not been good so far. And I think there's got to be a little bit of panic going on in the head office, because we know that Annunen's been good in a brief or a small collection of games and appearances over the last couple of years. So are we going to be able to rely on him to be a starting goalie for the whole season? I don't know. Like, that's got to have them scared to continue the theme.
I'm glad you brought up our preseason rankings, because I actually remember being more confident than you guys in this goaltending tandem, because Georgiev, though he's never been an incredible guy, he's always been very serviceable. He's never been this bad, is what I'm kind of getting at.
When we think back to him being the backup in New York, that was like the best tandem we could think of back then. Like, him as a backup, holy, that's phenomenal. But things have changed over the last couple of years.
Yeah, totally.
Certainly. And, going back to your point, Chad, like, and it was a good one, this team is good enough up front and on the back end to have, kind of middle of the road goaltending. And so if Georgiev can just give them something better than this, a 900 save percentage, or, at the bare minimum, then
or a 900 in one game at least to start.
Yeah, exactly. And with Annunen, like, he's still a young guy. They're very high on him as an organization. So I do like the kid, and I think that he'll continue to play well for them. But I mean, you can't expect this guy to play 50 games, can you?
No,
and
no
they,
chance.
They claimed Kakkonen off of waivers, which I think was a good one. I think Kakkonen is a decent backup, but geez, that's not really a tandem that you can sell a lot of people on, that's for sure. So the numbers from Georgiev have been scary. The team looks like they're starting to get it together, but you cannot outscore your problems every single night.
Yeah, for sure. And Kakkonen, I think, is still hurt, right? Like, that's why Annunen is playing all these games now. I mean, he's been playing well, but
Kakkonen, I know that there was a visa issue that was taking quite a bit of time, if I recall correctly. I believe Frank Saravalli reported that. So I think that's a factor in this as well.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. I have a few honorable mentions in terms of goalies who have had some scary starts to the season. Number one is the tandem for the Flyers. It's just not been good enough at all. Sam
Awful.
Ersson and Ivan Fedotov. Unfortunately, I think that's probably the worst tandem in the NHL. They've both been just brutal, surface level and underlying numbers this year. And by the way, like, we know goaltending is so fluid, right? Like there's ups and downs, but so I'm just pointing out these starts to the season. I'm not necessarily saying that these guys are bad, but so far they have not been good. Number two, honorable mention, Ville Husso. The guy played one game, got yanked, was on pace to allow 6.5 goals above expected in that one game, was sent down to the AHL immediately after, and has not played another game. But apparently it doesn't really matter because Alex Lyon and Cam Talbot are both goated. So there's that. Number three, and there's two more honorable mentions here for goalies who have had scary starts. Connor Ingram is number three. I kind of liked Utah's tandem going into the season, but Ingram has not been good. He was last year, but who knows?
Good record, but bad numbers.
Exactly, and bad underlying numbers as well. And then Jari is the fourth honorable mention. Tristan Jari in Pittsburgh, who I'm sure we're going to get to later. Goals against per 60, or sorry, goals saved above expected per 60. So more the goals. My bad. How do you phrase this? How do I phrase this here? Per 60, the goal saved above expected stat, but per 60. So the amount of goals that you allow more than an average goalie per 60 minutes. His numbers aren't actually that bad. And the reason I pulled the per 60 number is because he hasn't played that many games. So I needed to compare him fairly to other goalies. And, you know, he's right between a guy like Jacob Markstrom and Marc-Andre Fleury, both who haven't been that bad this season. But for Jari, the problem is the Penguins are just giving up so much against. He just doesn't stand a chance. And Nedeljkovic has been okay, and Blomqvist has been okay, but I don't know how sustainable any type of solid goaltending is in Pittsburgh because they've just been brutal.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an excellent segue to my subject for scary starts, and that is the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's been a scary bad start for this team. 3-6-1 is their record out of the gate, and you know, you mentioned one of the bright spots there a moment ago. Blomqvist has been great. Nedeljkovic is back and healthy now. Tristan Jari is in the American Hockey League. He's in Wilkes-Barre on a conditioning stint, and also he's on a long-term contract and just has not been very good, you know? And again, you really run the risk of making a huge organizational mistake when you decide to lock up one of those guys that are kind of just a middle of the road goaltenders, whether it's Jari. Who knows how that deal is going to work out for Seattle with a guy like Joey Decord. I'll even throw in Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in there as well. I mean, you know, Buffalo wins that game against Detroit over the weekend, but I think at one point Luukkonen had surrendered 3 goals on 15 shots, and Buffalo was out shooting Detroit by quite a wide margin. So I'll just, that's kind of my first point. You know, you do run the risk of making a big mistake when you make a long-term commitment to a guy who's not an elite starting goaltender like the Hellebucks, the Ottingers, the Shesterkins of the world, and the list goes on. But Jari obviously sticks out like a sore thumb for Pittsburgh, and, you know, Blomqvist has been a real bright spot. Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. I mean, Malkin has been fantastic out of the gate. Like, what is it, 2009? Like, with the start that he's on, like, it's just, it's fantastic. But, you know, there are some other players here that stick out like sore thumbs. Michael Bunting, 1 assist so far. That's pretty scary. Big part of that Jake Gensel deal with Carolina, right? Chris Letang, guys, has looked really, really scary out there. And that's 3 points for him. That's it. And a -6 plus minus rating in 10 games, and also no points for Ryan Graves, who looks like a shell of what he was in Colorado and even in New Jersey. So those are guys that just stick out. And, again, it makes me very critical of this general manager in Pittsburgh for his roster construction abilities and player evaluations and everything. I don't think this team is constructed properly. I don't like the blue line at all. We've seen the struggles with Jari after receiving that long-term extension. But at the same time, I mean, this scary bad start, it's not really a surprise from an aging Pittsburgh Penguins team. And I get it that Dubas is in a tough spot because as long as you have 87 and 71, and you could throw Letang in that as well, even though he hasn't been very good, they're going to continue to try and be competitive and try and win. But, you look at a team like Washington that I think is just so far ahead of the Penguins in terms of their retool and what they've been able to accomplish. This 3-6-1 start from the Pens is not surprising, but pretty damn scary. What do we think about the Pens?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got to push some of the blame off of Tristan Jarry. Like, I saw a comment, I don't know where I was on, but I saw a comment. It said, Tristan Jarry is going to get Mike Sullivan fired. I'm like, well, okay, he's been bad, but Mike Sullivan being the second longest tenured coach in the league.
That guy's not going anywhere.
Hey, yeah. But the team, like you mentioned, Harp, is just giving up way too many chances. They are only thinking about offense, it seems, because they do have the most expected goals in the entire league at the moment, which just...
Who would have thought?
I know, it makes no sense. But despite that, their goals percentage is 40%, which is among the league's worst. And the expected goals percentage is 46%. So if you have the most expected goals, but your percentage share is 46%, you're not playing defense. You're not. They're just simply not playing defense. It's not, are they playing it well? Are they playing it bad? Do they need to be better? They're not playing defense. So that's the first thing that needs to be addressed.
Well, Case, here's a number that explains it even better. They have the worst expected goals against in the league and the most actual goals against in the league as well. 42.73 expected goals against in just 10 games played. Like, that's, so what? You're expected to give up 4 goals a game? A game? That means you're giving up grade A chances left, right, and center. What kind of goalie is going to perform well when that's the team in front of you? And by the way, I think everyone's being too hard on Jari. I know he hasn't been incredible, but he's been basically league average for the last few years. And he goes down to the AHL now, and I guess that's a big, I understand that that's a big to-do. That's a big deal, considering he was supposed to be in the running for Team Canada, which he will probably no longer be. But, he tears up the AHL in the one game that he plays. These other young goalies, I think, are going to get picked apart and exposed by this rough defense in front of them. So I don't know. We're being too hard on Jari. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. And to that, wasn't trying to say that this is all Tristan Jari's fault. Absolutely not. The blue line, other than Erik Karlsson, maybe the rest of that decor has been terrible, quite frankly. So no, it is definitely not all on Tristan Jari. And I do think that he'll return to form at some point down the road here for the Penguins. But yeah, as a team and team defense and everything, and certain guys just not producing like they're expected to, it's no surprise, and it's scary that they've started out this way.
Despite this rough start, they have produced one of my favorite text chains of the season so far. In Harper texting us, "These Penguins look rough." In a game against the Buffalo Sabres, Buffalo is up 2-0. Harp starts ripping on Pittsburgh. None less than 5 minutes later, the game is tied. eventually over time, Chad and I put a rain dance together for the Penguins to score, and Buffalo loses in OT. It was just like one of those you couldn't write it better, just the way that
Yeah.
played out. So
Of
I
course
do
that
thank the
happens to
Penguins for
me.
that.
Like,
Oh, of course.
That was awesome. And Case, you said, is it Letang or Carlson who got the winner? Because Harp was chirping both of those guys.
Yeah.
And it was Carlson who snapped a pass to Sid, backdoor, hit him on the tape, and it goes in.
Exactly.
Just
We
incredible.
called it. Like, we just spoke that into existence. It was so much fun.
Oh, by the way,
geez.
Carlson and Sid both a -7 this year. Just tough. But
And look, obviously, plus minus doesn't tell the whole story, but yeah, like Letang in 10 games, -6, 3 points. That's all he has to show. That is scary.
And Harp, to your Dubas comment off the top, I know we're never going to agree on where we stand on his abilities and whether we like his moves or not, but I have to say, he was incredibly handcuffed when he took over this team. Mike Sullivan.
And I said that.
I know. Mike Sullivan got a huge extension from the guys way up before Kyle Dubas got hired. My God, I think this guy is 4 years past his expiry date. Mike Sullivan, that is. I like, clearly the team doesn't respond to him anymore. Yes, he's an incredible coach, but coaches have a shelf life, and I think his has been over for a while now. And I don't know why they ever gave him that huge extension. And I think if you're Kyle Dubas coming into that team, that would have been the first thing you did if you were allowed to, would be to find a coach that these guys respond to. And he wasn't able to do that.
Well, and that is a good point. And you know what? I mean, let's go back to a pretty eye-opening example of that. And look what happened in Vancouver. Ownership brought in Bruce Boudreau before they hired a general manager, and look how that turned out. The
poor guy, remember that? He was being dragged through it for like 3 weeks. He knew he was going to get fired, and
knew the guy who was going to replace him in all likelihood, and Rick Tocchet. Like, that was just
he was doing press conferences, and it's like, why? Like, just like, get this over with. Like, poor guy. Anyway, but yeah, the Pens have not been good. I think they need a total culture change there, and I think it starts with a coach, but unfortunately I don't think they're going to be able to do anything about it. And another thing too, the Gensel deal last year, this is where I can be a little critical of Dubas, because I don't know if that was necessarily the right thing to do, because I know that they don't really have any young players, and that's the whole idea, is to get younger, but like your entire core is old as hell, and like, you need to win now, and you need to do something like Washington did, where they just kind of they do some patchwork and hope they can get lucky over the next few years while their star is still capable, and then after that tear it down. But I was talking to John about this the other day, and man, like, we were thinking about it, like, the Penguins are going to be like all-time bad here in like 3 or 4 years, like all-time bad, because they have no one coming, and all their good players are going to either retire or just not be capable anymore.
You're going to see every streamer and YouTuber on the planet doing Pittsburgh Penguins franchise mode in 3 years. They're going to be the Utah Hockey Club or the Arizona Coyotes, or all the ones that you scroll through YouTube and it's like, oh, year one with the Utah. It's like, yeah, it's going to be Pittsburgh in a couple of years.
And it's going to be Rutger McGroarty, like with the Pulp Fiction meme, John Travolta just like looking around like this. Just Rutger McGroarty, that's it.
Like, I'll be critical of that trade too. Like, did you have to give up Braden Yager, like one of your top prospects, for another prospect when the cupboards are pretty thin? Like, I think it's fair to be a little critical of that move as well.
I like that one, because McGroarty was supposed to play this year. He's further along.
Yeah,
he's a year older. He's bigger. I like that move.
I know, but again, did you have to give up Yager?
Well, who else?
Like, you could, but like
Who else would Winnipeg want?
Give up.
That's
a
the
pick.
thing.
Give up a first. Give up a no.
Why
not
would they
a
do
first
that?
round pick. Give up a pick or two. Like keep.
But why
you
would
know-
Winnipeg want that?
No, that's fair.
They're trying to extend their core too. Like listen, I'm not a defender entirely of Dubas because I've been critical of some of his deals, but I don't know. The McGroarty one made sense. It sucks he's not playing in the league right now. It was funny when Jets fans were chanting and taunting him. Where is Rucker? But
yeah,
I don't. I think that deal made a lot of sense. It's like you both have a really good prospect. One's bigger, older, more ready to play. Who knows if his ceiling's higher? It's probably comparable. I don't know. Made sense to me.
This is fun because I know that Harper has a hate on for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I know that Chad has a Kyle Dubas poster in his bedroom. So
Yeah.
I'm just sitting back and listening. It's great.
God.
Yeah, we had a little bit of intensity in this back and forth. It was fun.
Well, we're never going to agree on Kyle Dubas, but it's one of those things where we can objectively point out that they have had a scary start to the season.
Can I put together something we have all finally agreed on for the first time ever?
Sure.
What?
Michael Bunting. This is the first time in this podcast that we agree that he has not been good.
Yeah.
Yes.
About that for the Penguins, who else? Like, who are you putting in that's better? Like Anthony Beauvillier? Like, I don't know.
He was first line with Crosby and Rust to start the season.
Okay, anyway, Bunting's a good player, but I think they need a new coach. Anyway,
If I'm the Penguins, I'm already looking ahead to that 2026 draft and trying to be all in on Gavin McKenna.
I don't think that they're going to be near the bottom for that.
No,
I think this is going to rebound. They'll be probably what they were last year, a point out or something like that.
yeah. They'll probably contend for sure. Like, they'll be
which
close.
is only going to hurt them in the long run.
Yep.
Well, it's the same with the Flames. Like you said that last episode, we were talking about the Flames case, and you said, well, yeah, they're off to a good start, but like, why? That's bad. Like, don't you want high picks? Like, this could really throw a wrench into a true rebuild.
Yeah.
But anyway.
One more honorable mention for scary starts. The San Jose Sharks again. I mean, the same awful start as last year. And what was the stat that I saw today? The first team in NHL history to have 0 wins in their first 9 games. I believe it is to start back-to-back seasons. Like, that is crazy.
This is I think it's The Simpsons where they find, or maybe it's Family Guy, they find a dead body in the swamp, and he's like, you want to poke it with a stick? And that's what they do for the day. This is Harper just came across a dead body and he's poking it right now.
So true.
I've been real prick this episode. I know.
I like it. I like the fiery element you've got going here. Listen, about the Sharks, as we wrap up here, you know who's had a scary good start for the Sharks, or should I say the Barracuda, is Yaroslav Askarov, who has played 4 games, 2 shutouts. He has a 125 goals against and a 954 save. This guy is going to be good, and honestly, playing in the AHL might be the best thing for his career right now, even though I know he wanted to play in the league, but man, he would have got picked apart. Like, they're giving up so much every single game, and we knew that going into the season.
He'll be up this season with the big club at some point for sure, I think.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, Vanacek has been not good, so
yeah,
No,
yeah,
that is
not
right.
good at all.
And
I saw a play where he was at the blue line playing the puck and turned it over, and they just tossed it in the net. Nice, easy one.
Jeez. Yeah, first D pair is Jake Wallman and Cody Ceci right now. Like, that's your first pair. Oh.
All right. I think this episode's turned into guys naming dudes, and while I would love to, while I would love to do an entire episode of that, like actually, like I would love to, like Casey and I were talking about this, we should go through some of our old hockey cards and just name dudes, like just sit around for 4 hours and just name former players who
Sure.
we like. You know, we did it today with Olaf Kolzig case.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think at this point we're through our scary starts. Those are the
We are.
scary starts.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, there we go. Thanks so much for listening to our Scary Starts episode 218. The number on this one. Happy Halloween to all you great folks out there, and thanks so much for listening. Keep it going, and we will chat with you again next week.